Hi there, welcome back to What's Wrong with This Picture. I'm here with Dennis Guillaume, our erstwhile host, and also Alec Hosterman, who is a communications professor at Indiana University, South Bend. We're talking about going retro with your photography, and we were talking earlier with some of the good reasons for this. Are essentially that it's a good learning experience, especially for kids. If you're traveling with kids, and sometimes the simplest camera is the best. They can jump out of the RV and they can take pictures right away. You don't have to worry about the camera itself. You don't hand off the DSLR or a good digital camera, but they also get to learn a lot more about how light works and how lenses work or don't work or whatever, and then kind of go simple. But one of the simplest cameras that we have found recently, and it has become sort of, we were talking about bokeh a little while ago. There's sort of a what we call cachet about this camera. Is that right?
Probably.
What is that camera?
The Holga.
The Holga.
The Holga.
Where did the Holga start? Dennis, you kind of looked up a little information on this. We're talking about that.
The Holga began, a gentleman named T.M. Lee in 1981 in China designed the Holga, what it became called. And then in Hong Kong in 1982, it actually got out of China via Hong Kong. And photographers from all over the world, professional photographers, discovered this thing because it was dirt cheap. And it took such bad pictures that they all wanted to have one. And it became kind of a cult-like thing. And photographers all over the world are running around with these dirt cheap cameras taking what most of us would have called really bad pictures. But there was a charm about them, and the inconsistency from one to the other, plastic lenses, for example. And inconsistent plastic lenses. So no two Holgas actually shot exactly alike.
That's right. And they all had a lot of them had a light leak in them, or actually, it's sort of like now they almost sort of like planned. If you don't have the light leak, you got a bad one.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
but show us your brand new, fresh out of the box Holga here, Alec.
This is what it looks like.
Okay.
It is plastic. I think I spent maybe $30 on this.
Okay.
Which majority of the money probably came with the strap. But it's a very simple point, shoot, click, film in the back. You proceed to the next one. You have the red window in the back that tells you what number photograph you're on.
By the way, the red window that leaks.
Yes, the red window that leaks.
Right, yeah.
But it is a very simple, inexpensive, great way to get out there. And you're right, wedding photographers, professional photographers are carrying around this plastic camera.
All right. I've got on my screen here. You don't have to buy the basic black camera. You can also get them in colors, right? So you've got on my machine. Well, maybe I'm not up yet. I will make sure that we get up for the last segment. But we have some examples of the kinds of pictures that the Holga does take. And let's take a look. These are done by a professional photographer in Brooklyn. We'll have his name up on our show notes as well. And but this is an example of using the Holga, doing a double exposure, and that's one of the tricks that you can do. And that's one of the things with older cameras people forget. You can't do it with any digital camera.
No, you really cannot. The idea of the double exposure and playing around with position and placement. It's becoming that lost art that you can do with film.
There you go. And now there's another photograph taken by this gentleman in New York. That's the Flatiron Building, of course. You also notice, you see that he had two different photos. They have a different kind of vignetting around the outside, don't they?
Yes. And the blur, the dark blur, the bow at the very bottom is very unique to that camera. No other camera will have that.
Right. Now, we should also point out, what kind of film does this use?
It uses 120 film, which is a medium format film. It's probably not one you could buy at Target or Myers, but your local camera store in town will probably handle it, or a good online retailer will have it too.
I think there is a 35mm Holga, but it's sort of like the purists don't like that one as well.
Yes.
You wouldn't use that if you were really a Holga fan.
No, you wouldn't. No. What's next on our picture parade here? The colors are interesting on that one, I think, because of the way the lens works, maybe?
You know, that's a really good question, because I'm looking at this going, where's the light leak? And you find very little. But you're right, the color saturation is much different than what you're expecting.
It's probably his other Holga that was the one that was giving the light leak.
That blue Holga you could purchase.
Or he accidentally put his hand over the leak.
Yes.
There you go.
So it's not a purist photograph.
Okay. Let's go on to the next one, I think. There we go. I like this one.
Beautiful.
This is a nice shot. This is a nice shot.
Great.
We'll have links to both of these websites on our show notes at rvnewsnet.com for you to look at.
That backlighting with the sun setting is absolutely gorgeous. I'm presuming sun setting, maybe it's sunrise, but
you know, this is an
gorgeous.
example too of the fact that you can get really interesting, great shots without having to spend a ton of money on an expensive camera or lens. This is about as inexpensive as one is going to find anywhere.
Exactly.
And yet it's possible to find a way to get a really interesting and a keeper of a shot.
Right. Now, there's some other advantages to going back. Well, besides this gives you, it's all in the framing, and the composition is what makes these pictures kind of special, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, isn't that kind of what makes most pictures kind of special?
Well, that's true.
Is how you see it and how you frame it, and the picture that you see in your mind's eye that you capture, no matter how good or bad the camera might be.
Now, this is actually used at a university class, this camera.
Yes.
And now tell me why.
It is used to teach students about the basic fundamentals of photography, inexpensive cameras at this stage in the game, film, how that whole light function works, shutter speed works, because there's not many options on the Holga. It's pretty much two settings, and that's about it. So you need to be able to understand moving in towards your setting, or moving away if you want a wider angle. So it really gets down to the basics, the real core basics of what the camera
What do you think, like with a camera like this, do you become a better photographer, Dennis?
Well, I think you certainly do, because you can't rely on all kinds of features and gimmicks in order to make your photo. You have to see it in your mind, and then you have to take this absolutely dirt simple camera and try to figure out where you have to be and how you have to deal with the image in order to get what you see in your mind. It's teaching you to see it first and then try to find a way to accomplish that image.
It's a great way of communicating visually. I mean, we're in this world where we see a lot of it, and now we have an inexpensive tool, and so it goes towards that idea very much so these days.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we are going to come back. We're going to show you some other ways of kind of going primitive, and so stick with us here on What's Wrong with This Picture. Have a question or a comment for Dennis Guillaume? Get in touch at picture@rvnn.tv, and don't forget to send us your RVing pictures for possible use on an upcoming episode. You can also leave a voicemail for Dennis at 877-578-RVNN, extension 704. Follow RV Newsnet on Facebook and Twitter, and you can receive text messages to alert you when we're streaming live by texting RVNN to 72727. That way, you can join us live in the chat room, ask questions, and become part of the RV Newsnet family. Remember, any photos or other material submitted to us become the property of RV Newsnet and cannot be returned. Today's show is brought to you by Angie's List, where you'll find thousands of unbiased reports and reviews about service companies in your area. Whether you're looking for a roofer, plumber, house cleaner, dentist, or even a doctor, Angie's List members share their experiences with each other so that you can choose the service company that's right for your job. Companies can't pay to be on Angie's List, and the reviews come from people just like you who have had experience with the companies mentioned. To find out more, go to rvnn.tv and click on the Angie's List ad.